The Ruger 1022 magazine. Every once in a while, you kind of need to clean it. So today I'm going to show you the easy way to disassemble it, then reassemble, and a simple trick to make sure you put the tension back on that spring the right way every single time. Stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to the Untrained Unprofessional Garage. I'm Nobody, and I appreciate you guys being here. Which today, we're actually here because of a viewer request of how to assemble a Ruger 1022 10-shot magazine. And it's actually pretty simple once you know the basic mechanics of how to do it and how to set it up properly. So if you stick around for a second, I'll show you how. For the disassembly and assembly process, the only major tool you need is this 9/64 Allen. I am going to show you a trick where I'm going to use a little bit of a scribe to mark a part, but that'll come here in just a little bit. The 9/64 is going to be used to loosen this bolt at the back of the magazine, which is being held in by this nut that has this little nipple at the front of the magazine. And the nut is actually keyed into this front plate. Loosen your bolt. And if you notice, I'm actually capturing the front of the magazine because this is under spring-loaded pressure. And I don't want the little nut to potentially go flying off. I'm going to back it out here. I have my magazine housing. I have my bolt. I have my feed ramp, my follower, my front plate, and the nut. Now this is the time that you would probably do any cleaning or polishing or anything you want to do to your magazine before reassembling. Once you've done that, assembly is pretty simple. You're going to grab your housing, stick your bolt into the back, grab your feed ramp, and you notice that your feed ramp is going to have two round raised areas. There's going to be a smaller raised area and a larger raised area. The larger goes into the back of the magazine, and it's actually going to sit at an angle. That large raised area indexes into a round area right here in the magazine body. Let's look at the follower for a second. You'll notice that there's a couple of distinguishing features about it. You have an area that doesn't have any of these slots. You have a spring that's sticking out the front, and you have one tab that is higher than the rest. This is all for orientation and the function of the magazine. You're going to take the smooth round area that's opposite of the spring. Go ahead and stick it into the magazine. Don't worry about lining up because we are going to do that right now. You want to take this tab and rotate it until it hits the follower. Not the follower, the feed ramp inside. So that is positioning it correctly for when we tension. You're going to take your plate and you want the keyed in nut area to be facing out, having your spring sitting through the hole. Now, on the spring, you're going to notice that there is part of the spring that is sticking straight out, or mostly straight out. That is for a very specific reason, and that is to lock into the nut. If you look at your nut, right here on the shoulder, you'll see a single hole. That hole is there to capture that spring tab, and that allows you to put the tension on your follower. Orient the hole on the nut so that way you can see it go into that hole, and just rotate it clockwise just ever so slightly, and you'll notice that if you push straight down, you're going to push your bolt out, by the way. It probably won't index into your plate. Rotate it clockwise ever so slightly and then push it the rest of the way in. Now, here's where the simple trick is going to come into play. For convenience to be able to show you this, I removed the rest of the magazine body away from the plate and the nut. I have on my nut a witness mark in order to allow me to key this in properly to be able to set the tension. I use right here as my starting off zeros. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is where you want this index mark to eventually end at. So having a starting off 0 mark and a witness mark allows you to see your progress as you're dialing around and where you know where to stop. So go ahead and put your witness mark once you have this keyed into place, so that way you can see it. And I mark all of my magazines this way. It just makes it nice and easy. Since you have the nut in and the bolt, what can happen is that as you're rotating this assembly, it's going to start threading onto the bolt, and it may not allow or it may not give you an easy time as you're doing it. So if it feels like it's binding up too much, back off your bolt just a little bit. There's a tool that you can use for this. I believe it's by Tandem Cross. I don't have one. I just use my fingers, but I'm also going to show you another way that some people find pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and start rotating, and you want to make sure that you don't pull out the nut too far, because it'll come off of that little spring tab. And if you feel like you're going to lose it, just go ahead and push it in, give your fingers a rest. Then you can push back out on it, rotate it some more. I've now done one full revolution. I need to move it 2 more corners to get to position 8. And I'm almost there. It does get a little difficult, but I'm now there. I'm going to screw in my bolt just a little bit just to lock it into place. And as you can see, that nut is now oriented to position 8. Tighten the bolt the rest of the way. And now I can test my tension. Yeah, that feels right. Now let me show you another way of getting that to position 8 that might be a little bit easier for you, especially working in such a tight little spot. All right, so I'm reset up. Everything is loose. I have my witness mark set up to position 0. Now, in order for this to work, you're going to preload the spring to position 2. And 2 is also our final position of position 8. So I'm going to rotate to position 2. And now I'm going to use the plate and holding in the nut, and I'm going to rotate everything 1 full revolution. Now, the hard thing about this is that a lot of times when I have tried it, yes, I start threading onto the bolt, and then you have to stop and back it off a little bit. And the other issue that you can run into is that if you pull this plate too far away so you can rotate it, you can actually lose that little spring tab from the nut, and then you have to start all over. So I'm just going to lift away from the magazine ever so slightly, and I'm going to start rotating, and things are going to want to fall apart. All right, so I'm back in position. I'm holding everything in, rotating, clearing. Kind of came off out of there a little bit. Okay. Screwing my bolt in. I'm still at position 8. And I have spring tension. Well, there we are, guys. 2 ways that you can use to reassemble your Ruger 1022 magazine. Figure out which one works best for you. I like to just awkwardly hold on to it and rotate the whole thing versus doing the front plate method. I tend to lose it on the front plate method more times than not. I'd rather struggle and lose the feeling in my fingertips by holding on to that little nut. So It's just me. Figure out what works for you, or if you have something that's even more interesting, a different way of doing it, then let me know down in the comments. I'd be more than interested to seeing it and trying it for myself. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.